Gary.
Let me start this discussion by reading a quote. This is
Okay.
from a recent, a couple of years ago, issue of Camera magazine, which inside is an article I wrote about you and your work. And let me
Okay.
just read a little quote here from you. Photography has lost its way. Each and every day, the world is filled with millions and millions of digital cell phone photographs that have no value, character, significance, or physical form.
Hmm.
You were very strongly opinionated when you said that.
Yes, and I continue to be so. And that's why you'll see if you follow my work online and stuff, you'll always see me holding a plate up in my sink as I make it, right? Because I'm using this as a way of demonstrating that this is an object, right? Like our photographs aren't objects anymore. I mean, our photographs are not objects anymore. Very few. And I ask people when they come in, how many cell phones, how many photos you have on your cell phone? And they'll look and they'll go, oh, 8,000 or 2,000 or 26,000 photos. And then I'll ask them, well, how many have you printed? And they'll say, well, I haven't printed any of them. And I told them, it doesn't exist. Your photos do not exist. That phone weighs the same weight with those photographs on it or without those photographs on it. And if something happens to you, like it does happen, like we have to, you'll have an elderly person pass away, like maybe a grandmother or something. And I can never remember anyone in the family going, "Did you pay grandma's Verizon bill this month so that we don't lose our iCloud data and lose all of our pictures?" Nobody says that, right?
Nobody.
Or when's the last time you heard someone say, "Make sure you get grandma's phone. We got to get all those pictures off grandma's phone and get them to a hard drive or something, or we have to print them off." When's the last time you heard someone say that? You've never heard that.
If it's not printed, it's never going to survive.
So grandma passes away, and within 30 days of grandma passing away, every digital photograph she ever took with her iPhone is gone.
All those pictures of the meal she just had,
Yeah,
gone.
yeah, right, right.
So yeah, so now we introduce you as Shadow Catcher, which was a name that was given to you by whom?
Kelvin Grinnell, the Hidatsa elder, about 7 years ago, called me on the phone and said, "I have your name." And being naive, I didn't really understand what he was trying to tell me. And I said, "What do you mean, Kelvin?" He says, "Well, I have your Native American name. I want to present it to you next week in your studio if we can have a formal ceremony." I said, "Well, that sounds great." He said, "Okay, on Saturday, 1 o'clock, I want to say the time was," and he said, "You have to get witnesses." So I had to find some Native American witnesses. I had to get gifts for my witnesses. We had to cook some traditional food, and it was just a miraculous kind of experience to be given that name by Kelvin Grinnell, the Hidatsa elder. So
Yeah.
Miyishte, and I'm going to destroy this name for all my Native American friends listening, but I'm going to say it anyway. Miyishte Ekagoche, which means shadow catcher in Hidatsa. And the Hidatsa tribe is about 45 miles, 50 miles north of here, of Bismarck. So I have, Mandan Hidatsa Arikara north of me. I have the Standing Rock Sioux 40, 45 miles south of me. And then I've got the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa up in the northeast part of the state, around 220 miles away, which I will be traveling there next month to go visit them. So,
And it's been your mission to record as many of these people as you can using this time-honored photographic process, which history has pretty much forgotten.
yeah, so the goal was when I first started, Gary, it was going to be 10 portraits. So I took my first photograph called Eternal Field with Ernie Lapointe, the great grandson of Sitting Bull. It got such reviews and so much attention online. People kept asking me, when are you going to photograph another Native American? When are you going to photograph another Native American? Then I found Dakota Goodhouse. He's a professor here at down at United Tribes, and he agreed to sit for me. And then it was going to be okay. It's going to be let's do a series. I'll do 10 portraits. And then I was thinking, well, how am I going to find 8 other Native Americans that trust me? And people just started contacting me, and so then I got to 10. I'm like, okay, we'll do 50. And then we got to 50, and I said, well, we'll do 100. And then when I was approaching 100, I said, well, screw this. We're going to go for 1,000, knowing damn well that I was going to push myself about 15 years out in the future. So I'm about nearly 13 years at this so far, and I've taken 915 portraits of Native Americans as of last Friday.
Wow. And are you still on target for your goal? You want to, you had a certain number in mind.
Yeah, a thousand's the goal. So I do a book series, Northern Plains Native Americans, a Modern Wet Plate Perspective. It'll be volume one, two, and three, and then volume four will be when I reach 1,000. And then the next question everyone asks is, are you going to stop at 1,000? I have no desire to stop at 1,000. It was just a promise I had made to my friends years ago that I would try to get to 1,000, which I didn't really know at the time that it's, looking back, it seemed like maybe an impossible task. But here we are, 915 in. I mean, we'll reach our 1,000 here in the next year and a half or so. So
Oh,
I'm really excited.
congratulations.
I'm booked out about 7 months for my Friday sessions right now. So Native Americans are, if they message me now, I'm shooting them in June and July of next
So
year.
they're coming to you. You're not seeking them out anymore.
No, no, no. Yeah, and that's really that's the big difference between what I'm doing and what Edward Curtis was doing, right? Edward Curtis back in the early 1900s with his dry plates, he was going around to different tribes and taking photographs, and it's a different thing when the Native Americans have their own agency and and they know why they're coming to me, right? I mean, it's not. And there's no selection process for this. That's the one other thing people always ask me is about, well, maybe I don't qualify or something like that, and that's just nonsense. I've never charged one penny to a Native American, even though many Native Americans have handed me cash, and I'll quickly have to hand it back, saying, "You can't ruin my, you can't ruin my, my trend here of not accepting one penny from a Native American. It's very important to me." So.
So
Um,
the people who post for you, do they go home with a print?
Nobody goes home with the print because this process is so slow. So once I get the plate, it has to dry. Then I'll do a scan, and then everyone gets a book, a previous version of one of my books, and then they do get a print of all the work. So I have limited edition signed prints of everyone who comes in gets a one of one print
Excellent.
that I
But you
mail
but
to
you
them.
keep
So.
the original, either for your archive or you
I
do
don't
donate to.
I don't keep any of it. So the actual plate actually goes to the State Historical Society of North Dakota. So I have a box here on the floor, and once it fills up, it's usually about 20, 25 plates. Then I have to make an appointment with the state archive. They meet me up there in their viewing room, and I hand over these amber types, which are 8 by 10 black glass positives. Maybe I should I grab one real quick?
Sure.
Okay, hold on. So here is a black glass amber type. So this is a image made out of pure silver on glass, and it'll last 1,000 years. I mean, silver doesn't degrade. And on the back, you'll see I have all the detail, all the information. Because historically, these photographers, when you find old Native American portraits from the 1800s and stuff, you won't find any information. Who's the subject? Where was it photographed? What day was it photographed
Well,
on?
yeah,
Who
that was
took the
probably
photograph?
all written down on a piece of paper that got lost in the fire
And
and kept
right,
separate.
and I don't I refuse. I do a piece of paper, so there is a little data sheet that goes with all this, but I don't count on that. So every plate has got to be labeled properly because when you make an object that's going to be here 500 years from now, Gary, it's really important that that information stays with the object. And your example is perfectly well. I mean, that's exactly what happened more than likely. If they did take the time, it was on a piece of paper. Because remember, they were doing negatives, so they were clear glass, so it's hard to write on them. There's not a lot of place to, and if you do, it interferes with the image itself.
Right.
So that's one problem that I don't have with my black glass is I have the back side of this. I have, that I can make annotations on,
And
and
it's a
when I
beautiful print. Tell our viewers more about the process. You mentioned that it has no grain to speak of. The
no,
silver doesn't degrade, so it
yep,
lasts thousands of
yep.
years, not just hundreds.
Yep. So those are the two main things about the archivability. So, if you throw a silver coin on the floor and come back 500 years from now, what's on the ground? And this is an example I give to the students, a silver coin. And so these silver does not degrade. It'll tarnish these plates. This plate that I just shared with you, that has been varnished. I pour a layer of shellac over the silver molecule so no oxygen gets to it. They figured this out in the Victorian era that tarnishing occurs, right? Like my grandmother used to collect silver spoons from all the different states, and every year they turn black, and she'd go and have to polish them.
Right.
That would happen to my image if we didn't varnish it. So they figured they put table shellac like you would shellac a wood table. They pour that onto the plate, and that blocks out the oxygen, and it's perfectly archival. So that's number one. What's so beautiful about this process is the archivability. When I take a portrait of anyone, I know that that photograph will outlast any other photograph ever taken of them in their lives or ever to be taken of them in their lives. And number two is you talked about the resolution. So I'm writing in molecules of silver, so silver nitrate. Um, and there was a study with that it takes about 2 billion molecules of silver for you to visualize it with the human eye. So if I started pipetting one molecule at a time on my finger, I would have to get to 2 billion. And then you would say, oh, I can see it for the first time. That's the resolution. So you can take this plate to any university, put it under the most high powered microscope that they have, and you can't get to the pixel or grain that makes it up. So I'm making the most high resolution photographs man has ever created. And we abandoned this in 1885 for something more convenient. And it was
Amazing.
not a good enough reason. So you need an
Well,
electron microscope at 10,000 power to actually see the clumping of silver that makes up the image.
his history is filled with examples of people abandoning a superior process in the name of convenience. Now, you've had a lot of feedback from historical societies, right? When you were telling a story about when you handed these wet plates over, and they were saying that there are such a large deluge of AI created fake old pictures that they can't certify what's real and what's not anymore. Is that right?
That's correct. So what's going to happen, and then this is what I wrote another article, Pat of Pixel, about how AI is ruining our history. These images get out in the wild, right? They get out in the wild. The person creates them for whatever reason. An example comes. I want to say there was JFK was on the top of a hotel building with
Martin
Muhammad
Luther
Ali or
King.
something. Or yeah, Martin Luther King was on the top of a hotel building with Muhammad Ali or something. It's just it's vague, but that you get the idea. And the fact is that that never happened. Like those two men were never there, and that building that they're standing on doesn't exist anywhere on this planet. And you can very easily figure, you go, into the future at some point, and it can confuse history. People, you have to have provenance. You have to be able to, where did this come from? Who took it? What date was it? And all of that. They don't have that. So it's going to be what's going to happen, and this is my theory, and it could just be because I'm an oncology nurse by trade as well. But these images are going to be the cancer on our museums around the globe.
So now this is making me feel a little bit guilty because here I am proposing a new business where I can create fake memories that never actually happened to make people feel better and bring
Mm,
back nostalgia that they
mm,
wish somebody had been there with a camera, but it didn't actually happen.
mm.
Am I making the problem worse by introducing a service like this?
I don't think you're going to have a market. I don't think that people are really going to. I really think that humans, when you see a portrait, Gary, you want to know who's in it. You want to know, who took it. And there's something about it. I only have so many photographs of my late father, and sure, I could give you a photograph of myself now in present day, and I could give you that photograph of my dad when is it with his Navy suit when he was 20 years old. And you could do something with that. You could put me with my father in some kind of realm or some kind of environment. It just doesn't hold water for me.
As you
Nothing
know,
reaches the real.
I was very concerned about this problem back in the 1990s, with the fact that when Photoshop became popular, you could lie with any image. Oh, can't trust an image anymore.
And here's the other thing as I hear about that, Gary, is that people say what you just said. You can't trust Shane. You can't trust your photographs anyway, and you're correct. Like they were manipulating. Peach was manipulating, taking 16 different negatives and making them, putting them together and making a print from them, right? A collage of they were William Mortensen, my favorite photographer, had a nude witch flying over the skyline. I mean, we know that there wasn't a witch flying over a skyline. We knew that he took a photograph of the witch, which I've also done myself. Like I wanted to prove that this could be done in camera. So you can see it. Well, maybe you can't see it up there. Should I grab it?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So here is a double exposure, a witch on her broom, shot that in studio. And then we had to go outside. It was 24 below zero. I had to light the studio and I superimposed the witch. This is in camera. This image is in camera. There's
So
no
you can lie with the image
manipulation.
even without Photoshop.
And yes, without Photoshop. And my point is that Um, but it used to take an expert to do these things, right? These lies. Now, with the way Photoshop has gone, and now with AI, you can have anyone lie. Before it'd have to be someone of expertise, that they'd have to be a studied person. That like this is very hard. Like what William Mortensen was doing was very, very difficult. And that's not the case anymore. So now
Right.
just any layman can do this. And what we're finding is we're finding that the internet is going to be, and I had this talk with the university professors, the internet's going to be this dead zone where if you sign on and the first thing you get is fake information, fake images, fake narratives, and then the next thing you get is fake images, fake narratives. I mean, if only 5% or 15% of the internet is actually real and usable as a resource, we're just going to have to abandon it. Someone's
Yes.
going to have to design another internet. We're going to have to, maybe it's not www anymore. We got to RRR dot something real,
Real, real,
real or
real.
something. I'm not sure. Really real.
But all the bots are hitting all the likes. All the AI programs are generating all the slops that pollutes
Yeah.
it, which other AI programs will train on.
I'm
So,
writing an article as we speak
yes.
for Petapixel. It's called There Are Time Machines. We Have Time Machines. They're called photographs, is my most recent article. And I show some historic photos and try to get the person in the article to go back, and you could actually stand there at the Gettysburg Address. You can actually, you can actually be there when the first photograph of a human was taken by Daguerre, of that gentleman having his shoes shined. I mean,
Right.
you can put yourself there with that photograph. Um,
So, lesson number one is if you want to survive, print it.
It has to be printed.
Has
And
to
it
be
doesn't have to be something glorious as a wet plate or, a platinum print or some kind of, historic
it's
print.
just something you can physically hold.
Anything you can hold. And we know that if you use some of these, you go to Target and get them printed, or you go to Kmart and get them printed. We know that those aren't going to hold up that well, but at least it's something. At least it's something.
Right. So things are now getting worse. I mean, we went from a chemical-based process to digital imaging, and now things are getting worse with AI, aren't they?
They are. That's what so it's
Because we
one
can't
more
believe what we
layer.
see anymore.
It's one more layer on top of this confusion. So how how does this alternative photography guy, all of a sudden start talking about AI? And I've given talks, I've given lectures. I just gave a lecture to like 50 professors from the University of North Dakota system on the 13 pitfalls of AI that I came up with. So I was on, this is like 2000. It's right around the time of the pandemic of 2001, 2020, 2021. And I started seeing these fake images appear. And at first, this, at first they were really obvious that that's a very terrible looking AI dog, right? Like that's horrible. It's got
Right.
5 legs for God's sakes. I mean, it's
Seven
ugly as
fingers on each hand.
yeah, it's hideous, but at least it was easy to identify. But then I started seeing the hashtag photograph or photography, and they were describing these. The people that were sharing these were calling them photographs, and that was way too much for me. At that point, it was like, whoa, 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 stop. And that's when I wrote my first article for Petapixel, uh, saying that AI images will never be a photograph, can never be a photograph,
Well, people are
because you
conflating the
need to
term.
have
People are
you need to
conflating the
have
term images with the term photograph.
yes, and you can use the word AI images. I'm not like some guy that says I think we should ban all AI images. I'm not that. If they want to have AI image art galleries and all this stuff and print, if they want to do that stuff, that's fine. Don't call it a photograph, because photographs, you need to have a photosensitive material, as you know, substrate, and you have to use light to create it. And it's funny, I even had some guy argue with me once early on. He says, well, AI images do use light. And I said, come again? And he says, well, the computer systems use fiber optics, and that uses light. And I'm like, at that point, it was just like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm dealing with here. So quickly, I came on the scene and I said, hey, these aren't photographs. Stop calling them photographs. And I started calling people out. I mean, I was very adamant about this. And when I saw someone say this is a photograph, I said, stop it. And then Gary, I would hear these arguments like, Oh, well, you're just the same kind of guy like when painters were complaining in the the 1830s and 1840s that photography was going to replace them. You're just that kind of guy, right? Like that was the next argument was that there was painters that were complaining that photography was going to replace them, which we
Oh,
know in hindsight that that didn't happen. But there's a big difference to that argument. The big difference is that the output of photographers were called photographs. They weren't called paintings. And that's what we're having now is like call it whatever you want. And let's just use for this conversation the word images. It's an image of some sort, it's a digital image.
right.
But when photographers started taking Daguerre and Orlando Scott Goff and all the people started taking photographs in the early 1800s or the mid 1800s, they didn't say, "Oh, look at my new painting." And that's what we're getting in present day is that people are calling their AI images photographs, and it's just simply not the case.
And now, of course, photographers are making the same complaints that painters once made when the photograph first arrived. It's going to put all
Yeah,
photographers out of business. Now, you could argue that it is true that fewer painters are being hired to do portraits, family portraits especially. That got
I
replaced with
would think
photography.
so.
That part's
Yeah,
true. And
that's true.
I think there's a lot of evidence now that the work for photographers, it's harder and harder to make a living unless you're doing fashion or commercial work or any kind of corporate work in photography. It's because art directors are now embracing these new tools, and even
It,
Hollywood is going to be going over a huge transformation. No longer are building sets, no longer are hiring actors, no longer are even the voice work can be synthesized. That's a
right.
huge shift.
The other thing that I also argue is that with this AI and some of the digital stuff is that you don't have no skin in the game. Like back in the day when you made a wet plate or you actually used a Polaroid and it cost you like $1 a exposure. I mean, $1 in exposure would be like if I could change the world of photography for the better, not that I need to be some savior, but if I could change the world of photography, I would make every exposure that people make on their iPhone cost them $1. If it cost them $1, we would have a lot fewer photographs taken every day. We're taking more photographs today in one single 24-hour period than in the first 350 years of photography in one day.
But in terms of real images, let me give you a hard time about something. Again, this is
Please.
your camera craft article.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
in
please.
the lower right-hand corner, there's a picture of a Native American almost hugging a buffalo.
Yep.
And I remember going through your portfolio and picking out pictures and saying, these pictures, they take 10 to 15 seconds for exposure. There's no way a buffalo
Hmm.
would ever hold still for that. That must have been faked. And sure enough, I learned later on it was.
Yeah, it's called Brothers, and it was a collaboration with Alan Demery, my Hidatsa brother, Alan Demery. Um, and we wanted to capture him with a buffalo. And I said, well, I went out, well, Gary, before that image, I went out to Standing Rock. I was invited by the tribe, and you have to understand the buffalo herd at these tribes, these are sacred animals. These are even to get into the even to get into the fences with them. Like this is the prairie, right? Like I had to be blessed, and there was prayers said over me. And before I even was able to go in and be amongst these fantastic creatures, they're that sacred to my friends. And I chased those buffalo around, a herd of them, for 8 hours. And you get your camera set up, and you got the herd there and they're maybe grazing 20 yards away, and I got everything going. I go back to get my plate, I pour my plate, I come back with my plate ready, my sensitized plate, and there's no buffalo, and the buffalo are like 2 miles away. I mean, I've never seen these creatures. Like I'm in a 4x4 Hummer, and I could not keep up with what these guys were doing. I mean, it was crazy. So I just set up, I'd get in front of the buffalo would move, they wouldn't hold still. And it was very, very frustrating. So it's very difficult. In order to get a live buffalo, I would have had to put some kind of feed on the ground. I would have had to create some kind of diversion so where they would have come to that and hold still for longer periods of time. I did capture some wild horses at once, but buffalo were very difficult.
Tell us
So
how
I
you got that
knew
shot then.
what?
Tell us how you got that shot.
Well, with so when Alan says, "Well, we got to do the buffalo shot," I said, "Okay." Well, he says, "Well, we have a buffalo mount at MHA." Well, and again, this is a very prized possession of them. It sits in in their headquarters up at Mandan Hadatsa MHA Nation. And they borrowed us the buffalo mount for he threw it in the back of his pickup and brought it down to my studio. We hung it on a ladder in my backyard, just about 20 yards from where my studio entrance is. And we photographed that. We photographed the buffalo and Alan having this interaction with the buffalo. If you know the real animals, you know that it's very, very dangerous. Like this, but there were people that here's we go back to this what people in their minds believe, right? Like they've seen if all you ever saw were real photographs of that, you wouldn't have this disbelief that you could just go up and interact with the buffalo in that way, right? Like our psyche, our people get confused about what reality is. The reality is nobody's going up to a buffalo and grabbing it by its beard. Nobody in the world. But people thought, guess what they thought? That I somehow pulled that off, that was real.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, then how would you rate this in terms of real?
It's a real person.
Yes.
It's a real buffalo mount. I mean, I on purposely did not show the setup. I showed the picture.
It's a very moving picture, but I just, for someone who is
It
talking,
has to be a
what's
message.
real,
It's
here you have a stage
contrived.
of
It's
shock.
contrived. But I've heard this before too, Gary. Like I'll hear like people have knocked Edward Curtis for there is proof that like if he's shooting some horses, Edward Curtis would actually have to have the Native Americans come back around and circle around because he didn't get it the first time. So it's or like Edward Curtis is up on a bluff and there's a Native American with an eagle in his hand, right? Like there, you're not getting a large format camera up on that bluff with your darkroom and everything that you need to capture that photograph. The
Right.
all of this stuff, the process is so difficult. All these things were contrived, so it was all manipulated. And Brothers is not part of my Northern Plains Native Americans: A Modern Wet Plate Perspective series. It's not labeled as that. It's an artistic. I've got one where it's called Enemy on the Plains. So Alan said, well, we used to fight quite a bit between the tribes. He said, I'd like to depict that. So in the middle of winter, we have a downed Native American, Alan's without a shirt on, with a spear, putting the spear through this Native American. It was another contrived piece of art. And so my brother's it's a Native American piece of art. It's not a historical aspect, and it's not intended to be that way. It's not labeled that way by me. I've well documented how I created that image so that there's no confusion
I
in
was
the
just giving you a
future.
hard time. I
No, it's
understand
good.
all of
No,
that.
no, no, it's great because I mean the argument is that Shane, you're playing, right? I'm playing in camera with different narratives,
Right.
and people with AI are playing with their technology with different narratives.
We're using the tools at our disposal to actuate our
And it's
vision.
one of my probably my most famous Native American portrait, probably because it's turned into a meme. So the Native American culture has grabbed that, and then they'll write different texts and stuff, different spiritual things on it and stuff. So I mean, it's been shared tens of thousands of times all over.
To help wrap this up, I just want to point out the fact that you and I have both been on a mission, and they both been running parallel. I had a patent on digital image authentication. If you took a picture
Mm,
with my camera, you'll be able to prove
hmm.
in court that the image would not be manipulated by computer. And I
Love that.
discovered that the world didn't care. Now,
Yeah,
you've been on
yeah.
a similar mission. You've been
Mm.
talking about the alarm. You can't believe what you see anymore. If you're not holding it in your hand, it's not real. How well has your message been received?
Well, I have proof in the pudding, right? Like I have the plates. Like I have 5,558 of these that I've made over a 13-year period. I have the proof that, and
That
on
is
the back
true.
of them that it's true,
Do
right?
people care?
I have people coming in from all over the world to my studio. I've got people that I teach. I've got my class at Bismarck State College. They come in and learn how to make this. So I think there is similar to like vinyl records have become, kind of important again. People are collecting them and playing them. That's all I play here. We do analog photography in the studio, so we only listen to records. So the students, when they come out, I assign one student to the record player, and their whole job for the entire lab is to make sure that analog music is playing in the background. Um, so I think people that care, and there's always going to be those people that I don't I don't understand what you're making such a big deal about this, Shane. I don't get why you're on this campaign. But that's okay, right? Like not everyone has to appreciate what I'm trying and the message that I'm trying to give. And
Well, Shane, thank you so much for spending time with us. I hope the readers of the blog come away with a new point of view. Um,
yeah, it's wonderful, Gary. And if people want to find more about my work, they can find me on social media on Facebook under Balkowitsch, my last name,
oh,
or on Instagram.
in the
Um,
YouTube description, all the relevant links you want
Great.
to be posted there, and they'll be in the blog post as well.
And there's also a documentary on Amazon. If you just type in my last name, there's a 1 hour documentary that was done about my work as well. So it's an honor talking to you about this. The AI thing. I'm just not sure. The other thing is, Gary, is that you're if you were the expert at comprising these AI images, it's becoming easier and easier for anyone to be able to do it. So I just don't know. I mean, the technology is just evolving, and you have to stay on top of it. The newest changes to the video AI and the photography AI.
Oh, I
It's
know.
just
I think I have
it's
maybe a 5 year
so
window before anybody can have access to this. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
intend to milk it as much as I can.
Well, I wish you all the best of luck with that, Gary.
I'm glad to hear that you're not philosophically against it. That makes me feel a little bit.
No, no, no. Yeah, because I think it's an artistic slant, and I think there is some art that can be had there. And I'm not against AI images. I'm just against AI images calling themselves photographs.
Right.
I am, and as long as the AI images aren't, like little AIs of dogs and cats and all the cute little memes and stuff we see, there, as long as you're not confused with what's reality, I don't have any problem with it because we've been doing that. We've had cartoonists forever, right? Like there was cartoonists in the 1800s, right? Doing little sketches, and we
Right.
knew damn well that that wasn't a photograph, and we knew that that was some artistic rendering. So if that's how people want to use their AI, that's great. Just don't use AI and pretend to make photographs with them. That is going to confuse history. And if that's the case, call it something else. I got no problems with it.
Great. Shane, congratulations to you on your professorship and
Oh,
your continuing mission. And
yeah.
I'm sure we'll follow up soon about this topic in a couple of years.
Yes, I look forward to it. Maybe we'll have a return talk when my fourth edition of my book come out, my fourth volume.
I'll be happy to help you promote it.
Okay. Thanks,
Thanks
Gary.
very
Take care.
much.
Uh-huh.